Imagine being 7 months pregnant, alone, while the man you love is out with another woman. He laughed when she begged for help, left her to face labor alone. What happened next would haunt him forever. The evening sun cast long shadows across the small compound as Rita knelt on the dusty ground, scrubbing clothes in a metal basin. Her pregnant belly pressed against her thighs, making every movement difficult. Sweat dripped from her forehead, mixing with the soapy water. "Rita, where is my food?" Stanley's voice boomed from inside the house. She struggled to stand, one hand supporting her aching back. "I'm coming, Stanley. Just let me finish." "Finish what? Those rags?" He appeared at the door, his face twisted in disgust. "You are 7 months pregnant and still useless. My mother was right about you." Rita swallowed the lump in her throat. This was her life now. Constant insults, endless work, and a husband who treated her like a burden. It hadn't always been this way. When they married 3 years ago, Stanley had been different. He had smiled at her, held her hand, whispered promises under the moonlight. Everything changed when his business started growing. Stanley's provision store had expanded into 3 locations across Lagos. Money came in, and with it came pride. He started coming home late, smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't hers. His friends, loud, wealthy men, filled their home on weekends, drinking and laughing while Rita served them like a maid. "I'm sorry," she whispered, wiping her hands on her wrapper. "I'll bring your food now." "Sorry," Stanley laughed bitterly. "That's all you know how to say. Sorry, sorry. My friend Thompson's wife, she's educated. She works in a bank. She brings money home. What do you bring? Just a big stomach and complaints." Rita blinked back tears as she hurried to the kitchen. The jollof rice she had spent 2 hours preparing sat in the pot, still warm. She dished a generous portion, added fried plantain and chicken, and carried it to the sitting room where Stanley sprawled on the sofa, scrolling through his phone. He didn't look up when she placed the tray before him. "Stanley," she said softly, "I wanted to tell you something. The doctor said, I don't have time for doctor stories. If you are sick, take paracetamol." "It's not that. He said the baby might come early. He wants to do some tests, but they cost money, money, money." Stanley threw his phone on the sofa. "Is that all you think about? Do you know how much I spend on you already? Food, clinic, hospital. You don't work, you don't contribute anything, and you want more money?" Rita's hands trembled. "Stanley, please. It's for our baby, our first child." "First child?" His laugh was cold. "How am I even sure it's mine?" The words hit Rita like a slap. She stumbled backward, her hand flying to her chest. "Stanley, how can you say such a thing?" "Leave me alone. I'm tired of your face." He picked up his phone again, dismissing her completely. Rita walked back to the kitchen, her vision blurred with tears. She leaned against the wall, both hands cradling her belly. Inside, the baby kicked, as if sensing her pain. "I'm sorry, my child," she whispered. "I am so sorry you're coming into this situation." 2 weeks later, Rita woke up to an empty bed. Stanley hadn't come home again. This was the 3rd night this week. She dragged herself to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, even though she knew he wouldn't eat it. Her ankles were swollen, her back hot, and the baby felt heavier than ever. The doctor had warned her about stress, about the need to rest, but how could she rest when she had a home to maintain and a husband to please? At noon, as she swept the compound, a sleek Mercedes pulled up at the gate. Rita's heart sank. She recognized the car. It belonged to Stanley's friend, Lawrence. Lawrence stepped out, his designer shirt gleaming in the sun. But he wasn't alone. A woman emerged from the passenger side, tall and beautiful, wearing a tight dress that hugged her curves. Her makeup was perfect, her hair styled in elegant waves. "Good afternoon, sir," Rita greeted, bowing slightly as custom demanded. Lawrence barely glanced at her. "Is Stanley inside?" "No, sir. He didn't come home last night." "Didn't come home? And you're just here sweeping? If my man didn't come home, I would burn down the city looking for him." Lawrence laughed. "Cynthia, leave the poor woman alone." Poor woman indeed. Cynthia circled Rita like a predator. "Look at her, pregnant and dirty, sweeping under the sun. Stanley has really suffered in this marriage." Rita kept her eyes down, her grip tightening on the broom. "You know some women know how to keep their men happy. They take care of themselves, look beautiful, bring something to the table. But others, she looked at Rita up and down, others are just a burden. Cynthia, that's enough, Lauren said, but he was smiling. It's fine, Rita said quietly. I have work to do. As she turned to leave, Cynthia's voice followed her. Tell Stanley that I said hello. Tell him Cynthia is looking for him. He knows where to find me. Rita's hand shook as she walked away. The message was clear. Cynthia wasn't just a friend. She was the other woman. The one Stanley went to when he left their home. The one who received the smiles and sweet words that Rita used to know. That evening, when Stanley finally came home, Rita gathered all her courage. Stanley, we need to talk. He was changing his shirt, preparing to go out again. Talk about what? About us. About this marriage. I saw your friend Lawrence today. And Cynthia? Stanley froze. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, perhaps, or anger. Then his face hardened. So, they're my friends. What's your problem? Stanley, please. I know something is going on. Just tell me the truth. If you don't want this marriage anymore, if you don't want me, you want to know the truth. He turned to face me, his voice cold. The truth is that I am tired. Tired of coming home to a wife who does nothing but complain. Tired of a house that feels like a prison. Cynthia makes me feel alive. She's educated. She's successful. She understands me. The words crushed Rita's heart. But I am your wife. I'm carrying your child. Are you? Stanley grabbed his car keys. Because I have serious doubts about that. Stanley! Rita reached for his arm, but he pushed her hand away. Don't touch me. I'm going out. Don't wait up. The door slammed behind him and Rita crumbled to the floor, sobbing. Her whole body shook with the weight of her pain. She had given this man everything, her youth, her dreams, her dignity, and this was what she received in return. As she cried, she felt a sharp pain in her belly, then another, and another. Something was wrong. The pain came in waves, each one stronger than the last. Rita crawled to the table where she had left her phone, her breath coming in short gasps. With trembling fingers, she dialed Stanley's number. It rang and rang. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. Please, God, she whispered. Please let someone help me. She dialed her neighbor, Mama Ife, an elderly woman who lived 3 houses away. Hello, Rita. Mama Ife's concerned voice came through. Mama, help me. The baby. Within minutes, Mama Ife was at the door with her son, a young man named Clement. They found Rita on the floor, clutching her stomach, her wrapper soaked with water. Her water has broken, Mama Ife shouted. Clement, bring the car. We have to get her to the hospital now. The drive to the general hospital felt endless. Every bump in the road sent fresh waves of agony through Rita's body. She drifted in and out of consciousness, hearing voices as if from far away. Where is her husband? Try his number again. Madam, stay with us. Stay awake. At the hospital, nurses rushed her into the emergency ward. A young doctor, Dr. Flora, examined her quickly. The baby is in distress, Dr. Flora said urgently. We need to do an emergency cesarean section. Who is the husband? He is not here, Mama Ife answered. We can't reach him. We can't wait. This woman will die if we don't operate now. Get the consent form. She'll have to sign it herself. Through her pain, Rita scribbled her signature on the form. As they wheeled her into the operating theater, one thought consumed her mind. Where was Stanley? Why wasn't he here when she needed him most? If you're feeling the emotions in this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Trust me, what happens next will shock you. Meanwhile, across town, Stanley sat in an upscale restaurant with Cynthia. Soft music played in the background and candlelight flickered on their table. You look happy tonight, Cynthia said, reaching across to touch his hand. Stanley smiled. I am. Being with you makes everything better. And your wife? Where does she think you are? Who cares? Stanley refilled his wine glass. She's probably at home sleeping. That's all she does anyway. Sleep, eat, and complain. Cynthia leaned closer. Stanley, I've been thinking, when is this baby coming? Because after that, you need to make a decision. You can't keep juggling 2 women forever. I know. Stanley's phone buzzed on the table.
He glanced at the screen. 15 missed calls from an unknown number. He silenced it and put it face down. After the baby comes, I'll figure something out. You better, Cynthia said, because I am not a second option. Either you choose me properly or I walk away. You won't have to walk away, I promise. They clinked glasses, completely unaware that at that very moment, Rita was fighting for her life on an operating table, doctors working frantically to save both mother and child. In the operating theater, Dr. Flora walked with steady hands, but her face was grave. Blood pressure is dropping, a nurse announced. Give her more fluids. We need to get this baby out now. Rita's eyes fluttered open. Through the haze of pain and medication, she saw the bright lights above her, heard the urgent voices around her. My baby, please save my baby. We're trying, madame, just hold on. But holding on was becoming harder. The edges of her vision darkened. She thought of her mother, who had died when she was young. She thought of her father, who had passed away 2 years before her marriage. She had no one left in this world except the baby in her womb and a husband who didn't care if she lived or died. Stanley, she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. Where are you? The last thing she heard before darkness claimed her was the sharp, beautiful cry of a newborn baby. Rita opened her eyes to harsh fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. Her body felt strange, disconnected. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was or what had happened. Then the memories flooded back. The pain, the hospital, the surgery. My baby! She tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in her abdomen forced her back down. Easy, madam. Don't move too quickly. A nurse appeared beside her, adjusting the IV drip. You just had major surgery. You need to rest. Where is my baby? Is my baby alive? The nurse smiled. Your baby is fine. A healthy baby boy. It's in the nursery. Relief washed over Rita so powerfully that she began to cry. Thank God. Thank you, Jesus. Can I see him? Soon. The doctor needs to check you first. You lost a lot of blood. You are very lucky to be alive. My husband, is he here? The nurse's smile faded. No, madam. Nobody has seen him. It was your neighbor who brought you. She's been here all night waiting. The words stung, but Rita was too weak to process the hurt. All that mattered was that her baby was alive. Later that morning, Mama Efe entered the ward carrying a small bag. My daughter, you are awake. Thank God, she hugged Rita carefully. You gave us such a scare. The doctor said it was touch and go. Thank you, Mama. Thank you for saving my life. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come. It's nothing, my child. But where is that useless husband of yours? I've been calling his number since last night. No answer. I don't know, Mama. Rita's voice broke. I don't know where he is. Mama Efe shook her head. This world is turning upside down. A man who doesn't even know his wife has given birth. But don't worry yourself. Rest and get strong. Everything will be revealed in due time. Around noon, Stanley finally arrived at the hospital. He walked into the ward with his phone in hand, looking irritated. So it's true, you had the baby. Rita stared at her husband in disbelief. No concern in his voice, no relief, just annoyance. Yes, Stanley, I had my baby. I almost died. Our son almost died. Where were you? I was busy. I didn't see the calls into this morning. He looked around the ward with distaste. Why are you in this kind of hospital? Look at this place. It smells. Stanley, this hospital saved my life. Whatever. Where is the baby? Let me see him and go. I have things to do. The nurse brought the baby, wrapped in a light blue blanket. For the first time since his arrival, Stanley's expression softened slightly. He looked down at the tiny face, the small fingers curled into fists. He's light-skinned, Stanley said suspiciously. How come? Both of us are dark. Baby skin changes, Stanley. You know this. He handed the baby back quickly. Have you thought of a name? I thought we could name him together. You think of something. I have to go. He was already heading for the door. Stanley, wait. What about the hospital bill? The doctor said. How much? 350,000 naira. The cesarean section, blood transfusion, medications. Stanley laughed harshly. 350,000 naira. Where do you expect me to get that kind of money from? But Stanley, you have 3 shops. You just bought a new car last month. And you think that money grows on trees? Figure it out yourself. Maybe your neighbor who has been playing mother can help you pay. He walked out without looking back. Rita stared at the empty doorway, her heart shattered into pieces. The nurse who had witnessed everything touched her shoulder gently. Madam, don't cry. God is watching everything. But in that moment, Rita felt like God had forgotten her completely.
3 days passed. Rita remained in the hospital because she couldn't pay the bill. Mama Efe brought her food and helped with the baby, but the old woman didn't have that kind of money either. On the 4th day, a stranger appeared at the ward entrance.
He was an elderly man, well dressed in a traditional agbada, with kind eyes and an air of authority. Behind him stood a younger man carrying a briefcase. "Good afternoon. I'm looking for Mrs. Rita," the elderly man said. Rita sat up slowly, confused. "I'm Rita." The man's face lit up with emotion. He moved closer, studying her face. "My God, you look just like her. Just like my Margaret." "I'm sorry, sir. Do I know you?" The man sat down carefully on the chair beside her bed. "My name is Chief Bernard Okonkwo, and if I'm not mistaken, your mother was Margaret Okonkwo." Rita's breath caught. Yes, that was my mother's name, but how do you know?" "Because Margaret was my daughter," Chief Bernard said, his voice heavy with emotion. "Which makes you my granddaughter." The ward fell silent. Even the nurses stopped what they were doing. "What?" Rita whispered. That's impossible. My mother never mentioned any father. She raised me alone. She said her family rejected her. And they did." Chief Bernard's eyes filled with tears. "When your mother got pregnant with you, I was angry, foolish, proud. I told her to leave my house. I said terrible things. I disowned her. She tried to come back many times, but I was too stubborn, too proud. I wanted to teach her a lesson. By the time I realized my mistake and went looking for her, I learned she had died. I searched for you for years. I hired people, spent millions, but you had disappeared until 2 days ago." "2 days ago? How did you find me now?" The younger man with the briefcase spoke. "My name is Barrister Thompson. Your hospital bill hasn't been paid, so the hospital contacted their social welfare office. Through their network, we discovered your admission and traced your mother's death certificate. When we saw Margaret Okonkwo's name, we immediately contacted Chief Bernard." Rita's mind was spinning. "So, you're really my grandfather?" "Yes, my child, and I have been looking for you for 27 years. Chief Bernard took her hand. "I know I failed your mother. I cannot bring her back or undo my mistakes, but I can make sure you and your child never suffer again." "I don't understand." "Rita, do you know who I am? My company, Okonkwo Industries. We deal in oil and gas. I am one of the wealthiest men in this country. And you, my dear, are my only living heir. Everything I have worked for, everything I own belongs to you." Rita felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. After years of suffering, of poverty, of humiliation, how could this be happening? "But my husband." "Your husband?" Chief Bernard's voice turned cold. "The same husband who abandoned you during childbirth? Who hasn't paid your hospital bill? The nurses have told me everything." "Chief, please. He's still my husband, the father of my child." "We shall see about that." Chief Bernard stood. "Barrister Thompson, pay all her hospital bills immediately. Get her the best private room they have. And tomorrow, we take her to my house. My granddaughter will not spend another night in this place." "Yes, Chief." As the men walked away to handle the paperwork, Rita looked down at her sleeping baby. She thought about Stanley, about the way he had treated her, the way he had abandoned her when she needed him most. She had married him thinking she was lucky to find a man who would take care of her, a poor orphan with nothing. But now everything had changed. Now Stanley would learn the truth, and Rita wondered what his face would look like when he realized that the wife he had treated like trash was worth more than everything he had ever owned. 2 weeks later, Stanley drove through the streets of Lekki, Lagos, his car weaving through traffic as he spoke on the phone with Cynthia. "Yes, baby, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I just need to check on Rita first. Make sure she's still alive." He laughed at his own joke. "Why do you even bother? You said you were going to leave her." I am. Just waiting for the right time. Don't worry, she's not going anywhere. She has nowhere to go. But when Stanley pulled up to his compound, his smile faded. The gate was locked, and a large sign hung on it. Property under new ownership. What nonsense is this? He jumped out of the car and banged on the gate. Who locked my gate? The gateman from the neighboring house came out. August Stanley, you don't live here anymore. What are you saying? This is my house. Not anymore. The landlord said your wife paid off your rent debt and terminated your lease. They changed the locks 3 days ago. Your things are inside, but you need to collect them and go. Stanley's world tilted. My wife? Rita? That woman doesn't have 2 naira to rub together. I don't know about that, but I saw her here with some big men in expensive cars. They said the house is empty and you should come collect your belongings. With shaking hands, Stanley dialed Rita's number. It rang once and went to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. Panic rising in his chest, Stanley drove to Mama Efe's house. The old woman was sweeping her compound when he arrived. Mama, where is Rita? Where did she go with my son? Your son? Now you remember you have a son. Where were you when his mother was dying? Mama, please, just tell me where she is. I don't know. And if I knew, I wouldn't tell a man like you. Should touching my peace. Stanley drove around Lagos like a madman, calling Rita's number over and over again. Nothing. He went to the hospital where she gave birth. They had no information. He asked neighbors, friends, anyone who might know. Nobody would tell him anything. Finally, on the 3rd day, his phone rang from an unknown number. Hello, Rita, he answered desperately. No, this is Barrister Thompson. I'm calling on behalf of my client, Mrs. Rita Okonkwo. Rita Okonkwo? Her name is Rita Adebayo. She's my wife. Actually, Mrs. Okonkwo has decided to reclaim her maiden name. She's filed for divorce. You will receive the papers at your address. Divorce? She can't divorce me. I haven't done anything. Where is she? Let me talk to her. That won't be possible. However, Mrs. Okonkwo has requested your presence at an event this Saturday at Echo Hotel. A car will pick you up at 2 p.m. Please be ready. What event? I don't understand. The line went dead.
Saturday came. Stanley dressed in his best clothes, confused and angry and scared all at once. The car that picked him up was a brand new Range Rover with a professional driver. They drove to Echo Hotel, one of Lagos's most prestigious venues. The ballroom was filled with people. Lagos society, business moguls, politicians. Stanley felt completely out of place in his borrowed suit. Then he saw her. Rita stood at the front of the room, wearing an elegant blue dress that must have cost more than his entire wardrobe. Her hair was professionally styled, her makeup perfect. She looked like royalty. Beside her stood an elderly man Stanley recognized from newspapers and TV, Chief Bernard Okonkwo, the oil tycoon. A microphone screeched as Chief Bernard began to speak. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to this special occasion. Today I want to introduce you to someone very precious to me. For 27 years, I have searched for my granddaughter, the daughter of my late daughter Margaret. Today I stand before you to announce that I have found her. He gestured to Rita. This is Rita Okonkwo, my granddaughter, and the heir to everything I own. From today, she will be taking her rightful place in the Okonkwo family and in our business empire. The room erupted in applause. Stanley stood frozen, his mouth hanging open. He watched as Rita smiled graciously, as important people came forward to congratulate her, as photographers took her picture with politicians and business leaders. Finally, Rita's eyes found him in the crowd. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the room. Then Rita picked up the microphone. I want to tell you all a story. Just 1 month ago, I was lying on a hospital bed, dying while giving birth to my son. I was in that hospital for days, unable to pay my bills, abandoned and alone.
The man who should have been by my side, my husband, was nowhere to be found. He left me to die because he thought I was worthless, because I had no money, no family, no value in his eyes. The room gone silent. That man is here today. Stanley Adebayo, please step forward. Stanley's legs moved on their own. He walked to the front like a man walking to his execution. Hundreds of eyes stared at him with judgment. Stanley, Rita said softly, you told me I was useless. You said I brought nothing to the marriage. You abandoned me when I needed you most. You questioned if my child was yours. You left me to figure out how to pay hospital bills while you were out with another woman. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. You treated me like I was nothing because you thought I had nothing. Rita's voice broke slightly. But Stanley, my worth was never about money or connections. My worth was always there. You just refused to see it. Stanley tried to speak, but no words came out. I don't hate you, but I can never trust you again. You showed me exactly who you are when you thought I had no power. Now that you know who I really am, you would probably treat me like a queen. But I don't want a man who only values me when I have wealth. I want a man who valued me when I had nothing. She turned to Barrister Thompson. Please proceed with the divorce. I want nothing from him. He can keep whatever he thinks he owns. Rita, please. Stanley finally found his voice. I'm sorry. I made mistakes. I was foolish. Please give me another chance. Think about our son. My son, Rita corrected him, will be raised to respect women irrespective of their social status. He will learn to value people's hearts, not their bank accounts. He will be taught that a person's worth is not determined by what they own, but how they treat others when they have power over them. Chief Bernard put his arm around Rita's shoulders. This press conference is over. Security, please escort Mr. Adebayo out. As security led him away, Stanley caught one last glimpse of Rita holding her baby, surrounded by family and well-wishers, smiling with genuine happiness. Everything he had taken for granted, his wife, his son, his chance at happiness was gone. Not because Rita had left him, but because he had already left her long ago with his neglect, his disrespect, and his cruelty. He had lost his family not when Rita discovered her wealth, but on all those nights he chose another woman over his pregnant wife. On the day he questioned his son's paternity, on the night he left her alone and in labor without looking back. 3 months later, Rita sat in the garden of her grandfather's mansion, watching her son sleep peacefully in his crib. Mama Efe sat beside her, shelling groundnuts. My daughter, you've handled everything with such grace. Even after all that man did to you, you didn't try to destroy him. Rita smiled sadly. Mama, revenge would have been easy. I could have used my grandfather's influence to ruin his business, to make him suffer the way he made me suffer. But what would that teach my son? That we hurt people who hurt us? That wealth gives us the right to be cruel? So you're just letting him go free? Not free, Mama. Stanley is living with the consequences of his actions. His business is struggling because people heard how he treated his wife. Cynthia left him when she realized he had nothing to offer her. He's not suffering because I punished him. He's suffering because of his own choices. Rita looked down at her son's peaceful face. I want my son to learn that true wealth isn't in bank accounts or properties. True wealth is in how you treat people when they can't do anything for you. It's in integrity, compassion, and respect. My mother raised me with nothing but love, and I was rich in all the ways that mattered. And if Stanley wants to see his son... Rita was quiet for a moment. I won't stop him from being a father, but I won't force it either. If he changes, if he truly learns and becomes a better man, then maybe he can have a relationship with his son. But it will be on my son's terms, not his. Mama Efe nodded approvingly. You are a wise woman, Rita. Your mother will be proud. As the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Rita held her son close and whispered, "You will know your value not by what people say about you, but by how you treat others. That is the true measure of a person." In this life, treat people with kindness and respect, not because of what they have, but because of who they are. Your wife, your husband, your family, these people are not your servants or your burdens. They are gifts, treasures that should be cherished every single day. Stanley had a precious gem in his hands, but he treated her like dirt because he was blinded by pride and foolishness. By the time he realized her true value, it was too late. The opportunity to build a beautiful family, to grow old with a faithful woman, to raise his son in a home filled with love, all of that was lost because he failed to see what he had until it was gone. Remember, the way you treat people when they are powerless reveals your true character. And karma doesn't always come as punishment from others. Sometimes it comes as the natural consequence of your own actions. Value your spouse, cherish your family, and never let pride destroy what love has built. Because wealth may come and go, but the regret of losing a good person through your own foolishness will haunt you forever. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video, drop a comment telling us what you learned, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful African folktales that teach us how to live better lives. Remember, every story carries a lesson, and this channel brings those lessons to you. Hit that subscribe button and let's continue this journey together.